Hey, everybody, and welcome to Tears and Tool Talk, a new podcast that celebrates women showing up from their perfectly imperfect lives to celebrate their magic. I am thrilled to have Maria Healey with me today. Maria and I met last year around this time at an Alaska airline dinner at Alt Summit, and became friends from that moment on. So welcome, Maria, and I would love to have you tell our listeners a little bit more about yourself.
Well, thank you for having me. Yeah, it was a year ago now. I can't even believe it. That was, oh my gosh, so much has changed in that time. Yeah, I live out in Southern California in San Diego, and I took 5 years off to raise my son. So I've been back to work for 2.5 years now and worked my way up pretty quickly at a casino of all places. I'm in the advertising. I'm the manager over there for advertising. I've got a 7-year-old at home, and I am a single parent. I share custody with my son's dad, so it's a lot on my own, and especially in these crazy times, it's juggling a lot because, as you can see, I have a whole classroom behind me here to be teaching him, and my office is over there to be working from home. So it's a lot that we have going on right now.
Yes, and I appreciate you showing up from within the pandemic days to share a little bit about yourself with all of us.
You bet.
Yeah, we like to kick off the podcast with a Tears and Tool moment, which we are calling the Even When, Especially Then. So anyone who's just listening for the first time, I sent Maria this question, and the answer is, it sort of starts with something that you love about yourself or something positive, and then it's even when an unexpected detour happens or, life just doesn't go as we plan. And Then we say, especially then, oh my goodness, especially during that time. And that's what Tears and Tool is all about. And so I'd love to hear what you chose for your even when, especially then moment.
Okay, I had to think about this pretty hard, so I wrote it down so I didn't forget, because even though I'm a writer, I still forget everything the second that I don't have it in front of me. So I said that I am continuing to show up for myself and my loved ones, even when I feel defeated or I can't go on or keep fighting, especially then.
Oh, yeah, that is such a good message for right now when people are having, I think, a lot of tears and, not being able to celebrate as much of those tool moments as we're normally used to. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's a daily thing.
So I want to talk about Tears and Tool. You were one of the original participants. So the skirt is still traveling across the United States and parts of Canada. And you had it a while back. And so that's the original Rainbow Tool skirt. The movement has expanded out, so you'll see trailblazers and tribes now where women from different parts of the world are wearing skirts of their own and sharing their own messages of hope from within the chaos, especially now with the pandemic. Yeah. But I absolutely loved hearing your story because you showed up from a really vulnerable and real place to say, hey, this is what's happening in my life, and I am still putting this skirt on and still choosing to remember that color or that magic. So I would just love to hear a little bit more about your experience with the skirt from getting it to sending it off.
Okay. So I got it right around Christmas. I can't remember whether it was before Christmas or after Christmas, but it was right around that time. And it was a quick turnaround because I knew I had to get it to somebody else pretty quickly too. And so I hadn't had a whole lot of time to decide what I was going to do with it. But I knew I had this pink beach cruiser in my garage, and I have a 7-year-old who likes phones. So I figured, okay, let's go ahead and do that. So we just went out to the back alley and took it out of the box right away, just shook it out, put it on, and went out to the alley and just handed him my phone and said, hey, go ahead and take as many pictures as you need to get this done.
Oh my gosh, those pictures are incredible.
Yeah. So he did a good job. I was really surprised.
Yeah, they turned out so cool. You're on the bicycle, you're drinking your coffee. Like, it's just so real life. Like, 1 minute you're drinking your coffee and just trying to, like, I don't know, make it, because things can get so crazy. And then I think we could all relate to just wanting to get on that bicycle and remember that feeling from when we're little and we go exploring and we connect with our color. So,
and that's me, the very childish coffee drinker. So
well, I love the pictures, the side profile and the I think the bicycle is probably my favorite of the ones that you took. But you're right,
it was just so colorful and fun, and I was like, I have to do something really fun in this. And of course I had this grand idea, being a photographer. I have such a creative background, and I had this grand idea of, like, the legs kicked out with the skirts, and I got a pretty good version of that. So yeah, it was good.
You did. I think everybody loved the especially that bicycle pic was amazing.
Yeah.
So how did it feel to package it up and send it off to the next participant?
It was difficult. It was so fun to have around, and then when it was time to just kind of say goodbye to it, it was difficult, but it was also, I loved the fact that I was sharing it with somebody else and they had it to look forward to as well. When I had received it from the woman who had it before me, she had packaged some little goodies in there for me and a nice little note. And so I thought, oh, I should probably do this too. That was a really sweet touch. I didn't expect that. And so picked up, I can't even remember now, maybe like a face mask and some chocolates or something like that, and wrote a little note to send it off to the next woman just to make her feel even more special.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much, because the skirt came to the first participant as is. It was just the skirt. There was nothing else in there. And as people were messaging me, I was hearing, oh, this was in the box, or a sewing kit is now in the box. So
I thought that was part of the original part of it too.
No, I was not that prepared when we sent it off the first time. I'm like, let's just get the skirt out there. Yes, so it's evolved, and so many women have said they could actually feel the energy and the love that sort of came from each person that wore it. Did you kind of have a similar feeling when opening it, that it had come from somewhere special before finding its way to you?
Definitely. And I think it was the woman before me had described in her experience with it, she had to pick out all the twigs and stuff like that out of it or something. And then once, of course, I got on the bike, I was like, oh, yep, similar experience. Let's put this thing back together. So we all left our love and blood all over it, probably.
I believe that. It's been in the rain. It's really been through so much.
Sand, everything. Yeah.
All right. So I'm also wondering two questions. One, I'm wondering what you wanted to be when you were a little girl, and who inspires you as an adult. So how do those two things kind of come together? And did you end up connecting with that younger self and taking her vision into the world?
So I think that I've always been a storyteller, and I never thought that was a viable career option. So I never went in that direction. I thought for a while I would be a teacher, and then I realized standing in front of a classroom of people and having to be on all day was like a nightmare. So that wasn't something I could do. My mom always helped to inspire me. She really struggled. She raised 4 kids on her own, and she really helped me become the resilient person I am, and know that I can do whatever I want to do. And I have, and I've really been able to set my mind on anything that I want to do and actually go after it, even when I didn't think that it was possible, or it seemed too outlandish, or it was just too big of a dream for some girl from Iowa. So yeah.
Wow. That's so tears and Tulle too, that you felt the fear and you move forward anyway.
Yep.
That's so cool. I too was a single mom with 4 kids, 2 boys, 2 girls before I met my current husband. And so I could really relate to the struggles and, you know, how that sort of shapes and builds us. And thank you for sharing that little piece of vulnerability with us. I appreciate it.
I am.
So how are you doing with the whole pandemic situation, and what maybe advice would you give to guide someone who's also going through something like this right now?
I think the one thing that makes it most tolerable is knowing that I'm not the only one going through this, that we are all going through this together, and it sucks for everyone. And it has really, I think, been an eye-opener for society in general, just the stresses that we put women and mothers under at home, and just so many hats that we have to wear. It's been really difficult to balance being able to focus on work and being able to give my son the attention that he needs for school. It's been eye-opening. And then you add on top of that all of the regular, just getting up and getting ready and taking care of yourself, cooking, cleaning. It's a lot to be stuck in the house all day long. Like, we look forward to that 1 or 2 walks we take a day just to get outside and get some sunshine.
Yeah, I can relate. Our dogs have been on a lot of walks in the past, you know, month and a half or so. So I could totally get that. So I want to hear all about this again. You and I, when we were sitting next to each other at the Alaska Air dinner, I thought it was the coolest thing in the universe that you had wrote this blog about food. And I just think that our listeners just have to know about your experience with that project and how that sort of evolved. And it gives me hope when I'm just trying to cook dinner at this point. So I think our listeners would really enjoy hearing about that project.
And I love that you brought it up, because I forget about this all the time. And I don't know why, because it was such a significant time in my life. But it's like, unless you're doing something every day, you just completely forget all about it. So I had done a food blog for a year where I blogged about the national food of the day every day for 365 days. And it started in January, and the perfectionist in me was like, oh, I'm starting like January 14th or something. I wish I'd started this January 1st. Maybe I can delay this project and start next year when I'm more prepared. But instead I was like, you know what? I got this email from Applebee's. It's National Chocolate Cake Day. We're going to make this happen. So I started researching and thinking, is there a day every day of the year? And there was. So I built up this whole big calendar, and I made everything at home, or I went out to eat it, such as escargot day. I wasn't going to make that at home. And so picked that up from some fancy restaurant and brought that home to eat it. I learned just how to be really comfortable with baking and cooking in the kitchen. I made my first filet, which I never would have made. I've made amazing homemade Alfredo. I love baking. It is my favorite. So I've perfected chocolate chip cookies, and they're like my pride and joy. It was a blast. I loved it.
Yeah, I just think it's so amazing, like, to go the entire year. I totally remember the Alfredo, you talking about that during the dinner too, like that thing sticks out. I'm like, oh, she made homemade Alfredo. How cool. Yeah. Oh my goodness. I can't believe we're almost at time. We have just a little bit of time left. So what are you up to now? Like, what's going on presently for you? I know the pandemic has sort of turned everybody upside down, but I've been kind of keeping up with what you're doing, and I think there's a book in place. I think that I saw a little snippet of that. I can't
stop writing, with the exception that you would think if you were told you're not allowed to leave the house as a result of some great pandemic that you would be nothing but productive, but I haven't been able to write at all. since mid-March. I haven't had the time to at all. I used to have a really great schedule where I'd get up at 5:45 in the morning and I'd do my writing before getting my son up to start the day, and that's just out the window now. So I haven't made myself a priority, unfortunately. I really need to. But I am writing a book. My son wanted me to write some nonfiction Dear Diary sort of stuff. So I've been writing that. And then I also am trying to convert my first novel, which I wrote and never published. I really want to get that edited. And then I'd like to turn that into a screenplay, actually. So I'm working on that as well. I have so many different stories and ideas that I need to get down on paper because they don't mean anything until you get them out of your head.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I didn't realize you were doing so much, so now I'm really excited. What is one of your favorite ideas from your list of things that you want to get on paper?
Oh my gosh, I have too many, but one thing that really stands out with me is the fact that I like telling my own nonfiction stories because I just like people to feel like they're not alone, and no matter what they're struggling with, somebody else has also gone through it. And so I really like to share my own stories and just open up and be an open book for those who want to have somebody who they can connect with.
Oh my gosh. I love that. We all need that right now.
Yeah.
And so who are some of your current favorite writers, or as a child growing up, maybe your favorite stories?
So I really like modern women's fiction a lot. So the book that got me to write my first novel was Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. And I was like, you know what? I could do this. And then I did in 90 days. I just sat down.
Oh my gosh, Maria, in 90 days?
I did the math. Once again, I just sat down and did the math. I was like, okay, my son naps in the afternoon. So I can sit down and write 1,000 words a day and I'll have 90,000 words after 90 days. That's a book.
That is incredible. That is so inspiring. That's going to help me so much when I'm writing.
3 months, that's all it takes.
Wow. You should write a book about that.
Edited.
Oh my goodness.
So I really like her a lot. I really love Leanne Moriarty, who did Big Little Lies, and she has just blown up everything, which is amazing. And then I also like Jessica Knoll a lot. So they're my favorites.
Wow. Those are great suggestions for sure. All right. So I want you to let people know how they can find you on social media or in the world. Do you have your blog or your Facebook page or Instagram or somewhere where you would like people to come and visit you?
Let's see. I've been kind of buried these days. I'm like hard to find. I have a web address, but it's needs to be updated because I plan on transitioning it from my photography career over to my writing career at some point, but it's just not a priority at this time. That's mariahealey.com. And there is a second E in my name. It's not L-Y. A lot of people will type in L-Y. It's L-E-Y.
I do that and I have to change it. I'm like, oh,
yeah, exactly. All the time. If somebody's like, you didn't get an email, and I'm like, you didn't address it right.
Exactly.
So I am on Facebook. I'm not super active on there. I'm on Instagram at Maria Healey WP. But I'm not super, I literally just deleted the app the other day because I was like, this is taking up too much of my life.
Yes, I think a lot of people right now are realizing how much they're on social media because, you know, we're so used to having it in our lives, but then we slow down and it's like, oh my gosh, I just need to take a break from all these messages I'm getting, you know, all these different people posting different things. And with the pandemic, there's so much happening.
I know.
So many negative stories. And so I wish there was a news channel that was just showing us the Tulle moments that are happening in the world, because we already know that there's a lot of tears going on right now.
Yes, exactly. Yep. And then you can just visit me in Chula Vista, California. I'll be ready to meet for coffee.
I can't wait until you and I sit at a dinner again. I know it's going to come full circle and it's going to happen again, and we're going to be like, oh, there you are, and we're going to catch up and it's going to be amazing.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on live with us, for taking time out of work and teaching and pandemics to connect. I appreciate it more than you will ever know.
You're welcome. Happy. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much, Maria.
Bye.
Bye.